What's up? How are ya? What's going on today? Got my nice cup of tea here. We're frothing. We're always frothing at Sparky Coach. We're just absolute frothers on life and love and anything electrical. Give us that rule book. Om nom 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 nom. We'll eat that thing up all night. What a time to be alive. Talking today about the difference between good and excellent is 5 minutes, usually. So that got said to me when I was 19 by a youth pastor at the time who turned out to be an absolute dickhead, to be honest. Actually, that was funny. Like, you know, a lot of organisations, you meet some of the coolest people ever and some of the worst people ever. If you can relate, let me know. But, you know, it's interesting to reflect on. I remember when that got said, and, it, you know, sometimes it doesn't matter who says it. Like, you can just hit you. And that was one thing that hit me, is the difference between good and excellent is 5 minutes. And or it's usually about 5 minutes. And it was something that really stuck with me, especially when I started my business on site. You know, you can reference this to on-site, and I think it's a great cultural thing to have in your business. Like, I'm a big believer in 10 commandments, having like some 10 commandments in your business, like some standards that are non-negotiable, that we will always live and die by this sword. So I think that's so important. If you have standards, you know what you stand for. But if you don't have standards, you don't know what you stand for, and you can fall for anything. And it's quite a dangerous position to be in. And I think as a business owner, you forget what you know. You know stuff, and you are excellent, and not everyone is as good as you. I know what you're thinking. Like, tell me something I don't know. Yeah, I know that already. But, you know, I think it's just good to make sure everyone's on the same page. Difference between good and excellent is 5 minutes. So I remember for me, you know, like when you're working on the tools and you leave the site, I've got to go sweep that thing up, and I've got to get to the next job. And you just think, okay, how long is it going to take me? 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, yeah. Or like, you know, I think so you can reference it to on-site. The difference between good and excellent is usually about 5 minutes. It's that second tape or that second label if needs be. Actually, my builder mate, shout out to Jimmy, sent me this photo the other day. There's like, I should put it up on Insta. It's so funny. Like, there's literally, he was like, what do you reckon the Sparky was thinking here? And obviously Jimmy's been acclimatized to my work in the past and our company's work. And it was literally like hanging out, there was like 3 meters of cable hanging out, everything at different lengths. And I was like, that wouldn't pass in our company. I'd die on a hill for that never to happen again. But it's, you know, it's super interesting. We're a massive believer that something comes out, you know, 2 foot, label it, tape it twice, make sure when you strip it back, you're not stripping the label back. Obviously 101 stuff to you legend. But you know, you've got to have those standards, and it's like that labeling in the right spot and that taping in the right spot and making sure you've taped it so you know there's nothing lost or dangerous behind anywhere. That's a couple of minutes job. So you can do the sickest rough-in, but without taping and inspecting at the end of it, or without marking a good plan, it doesn't mean anything, you know. So it's like, it's super interesting to reflect on, because it's like sometimes you can do the hard things really well, and that's what I want to reference here today. Sometimes you can do the hard part so easily, but you're just doing the easy part so hard, and the hard part was the small part. So a lot of us can feel deflated as business owners sometimes, and a lot of times you're getting 90% right, just not that extra 10%. You can reference this to the on-site work, like I was saying. I think preach that to your staff members. The difference between good and excellent is 5 minutes, right? It's that extra screw from the car. It's that extra conversation with the client to explain how that's going to look. It's that extra conversation for you in the office to make sure the client knows how much that costs or how long this is going to take. It's that extra conversation to the staff member going, oh, hey, you know, if you do that private job and use something from the car, I need to get paid for that. Like, this is not materials you can just go and use. So a lot of times we're just assuming, and we're just not having that final conversation, putting that final screw in. It's like, okay, this is the best example. I say this so much, but it's just like sometimes we're doing the whole board. We're just not getting that big flathead screwdriver and just tightening everything up, just making sure. Funny story from one of our morning sessions this morning. We have on time in our as part of our platform. At any level you get that, and we sit there on Thursday mornings, 10, 11, 12, depending on where you're at. And I know what you're thinking, I can't make it at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. And I just think, like, you need to shut up. No. So you need to listen to me. I just think if you can't spend an hour out of your week on business development, of working on your business, of on time, you might just be too busy. Like that, I think we'd all agree with that. And sometimes, once again, we're doing the hard thing easy. We're finding the work, we're finding the staff, we've got the vans on the road, we've got the petrol cards. We just aren't measuring if our jobs are profitable or not. You know, we've got all the gear and no idea. And it doesn't really matter how busy you are if you're not making money. Like, really, I think we'd all agree with that. And I think we'd all agree with the fact that, you know, as a coach, it's really funny to pick a session time for stuff, because it's like 6 a.m. sucks for people. They're going to work. 9 a.m. sucks. Like I'm in a meeting. 12 p.m. sucks. I'm at an emergency job. 6 p.m. sucks, like I'm with the kids. 7 p.m. sucks because like I'm doing office work. You know, everything sucks. And it just reminds me of The Simpsons. I can't remember the guy's name. He's going, it stinks, it stinks, it stinks. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, you'd be like, what is this weirdo talking about? Anyway, but you know, there's no good time. And that's probably the crux of the matter. There's no good time to measure your jobs. It's just like there's no good time. There's a lot of things there's no time for, but you've got to make the time, and you've got to be diligent, and you've got to work at things. And if you don't change something, then nothing's going to change. And if nothing changes, you'll end up in 5 years in trade god purgatory, just existing, not going up. I'm not going down. I'm just plateauing. Not even. Maybe you're gently declining. So the difference between good and excellent is 5 minutes. Sometimes, if you've heard me talk about quote follow-ups before, it's, you know, it's all good to have automation. But if the client just needed a phone call to make sure the quote was in the inbox. The amount of times people lose jobs due to something falling into into not an inbox, or something falling into their spam or junk mail, or like, you know, I think it's just a matter of, could you have made, or your staff members made that additional call, hey, or text message, hey, just so you know, the quote's it's in your inbox. Oh, cool. Haven't seen it. Sweet. Check spam. Found spam. Found it. Like, we'd all been there before, right? You would have been there before. You would have done the job. And here's the thing, like, measuring jobs is such a critical part. And you know us, we fly by the accelerator program. We literally just launched that. It's the sickest 4-week program on measuring your hours, your numbers, measuring job efficiency, measuring day efficiency, looking at net profit under 3 different testing scenarios. And it's psycho to look at it. When you look at it and you're like, I can see it. And it's like, that's an hour out of your week for 4 weeks for a base level foundational understanding that will never leave you. So it's like, how can you be too busy to work out if you're profitable or not? How can you be, like, sometimes you do the hard part, like the quote, got that quote done, took me 4 hours, sent it, just assumed it was landing in the right spot. It wasn't. I left an E out of the email address. It went to their spam folder. Whatever. Insert number of situations here. They looked at it, but they just needed they didn't understand it. You know, like, just that extra TLC for 5 minutes usually goes a long way, right? And you can reference that to on-site. You can reference that to off-site. And you can reference that in life. Like, it's that final wipe of the bench or sweep of the floor at nighttime that sets tomorrow up. When you wake up and you've ever woken up and you've got kids or no kids, you know, and you're looking at the dishes piled up, just thinking 50 Cent, watch the dishes pile up. That is an Into Club reference if you've been living under a freaking rock. Where have you been if you don't know Into Club? That song actually used to bring people to the dance floor. I remember 2001 at Carmen's. You'd be playing pool, 50 Cent comes on, straight to the dance floor, shirt optional. Am I right? That was back in the days you could smoke in the club, or in the club, as 50 says, or 50, depending on who you talk to. Actually, one of our friends is like, he apparently climbed through he must have climbed through like the fresh air vent to get in and got like, stuck in the aircon. Psycho. Anyway, where were we? Talking about difference between good and excellent is 5 minutes, right? So it's really interesting to talk about, and I want to encourage you that, you know, have that foundational understanding. Near enough's not good enough. Maybe you've got it. What have you got to do? What are you lacking that extra 5 minutes? For some of you, it's the schedule the afternoon before the next day. Like it's in the afternoon, having that alarm set, having that person go, hey, is the schedule being sorted for tomorrow? Because if it's not, it's going to present a lot of issues. One of our clients, and it's so easy to happen, they have a new admin, purchase order came in, missed the purchase order, and this is like for a council contract, and then someone else got the job. But they had booked, get it, this is crazy. The admin person had booked the job in, just didn't write back to the client, say, hey, all good, received, booked, and then they got someone else, and the guy turned up at the job on Wednesday, hey, we're here, the job's been done. What do you mean? So it's like that one email, that one phone call, that one text message, that one measure, that one job reflection, that one staff conversation, that one something, like what do you need to adopt? What do you need to change to set that culture that near enough's not good enough, that we are excellent? And the more excellent you are, the more your reputation grows. The more your reputation grows, the more your profit can grow, because you're reputation-based selling rather than like price-based selling, because people are like, you've got to use these guys and girls. They're awesome, they're on time, they're thorough, they're neat, they're clean, they work to the code, their job notes are awesome. On that difference between good and excellent is 5 minutes. Another situation is like, you've got to order a part for a job. Sweet. That would have taken you 5 minutes. You got to log your job notes on. Sweet. It would have taken you 5 minutes. What is it for you and your company? You need to be like, not good enough anymore. You've got to do the 5 minute part well. The 5 minute part, the small component, the small part of a large job can leave a bad taste in someone's mouth. So a lot of times doing those large commercial stuff, you've got to do a handover document. Handover document will usually take an hour. So you might have a 400-hour job and got a 1 hour component of the job that needs to be sent on time because it's part of the handover, right? Or you got one certificate of compliance to send, or that one that one CCW to send, or NOSWA, or whatever they call them now. I don't even know what they call them now. But that one compliance electrical certificate or whatever, you got that one thing to do and send that, like, it can put the whole job at risk, right? Testing, another thing, like, don't assume anything with testing. You got that one thing to do. Like I remember for us, and I know a lot of my ex-staff members listen to this podcast. I say ex because I don't run the business anymore. But like, hi, by the way, everyone. But yeah, I know, for us, like, the amount of times I get a phone call from someone and be like, oh, just checking what this data cable does, like it's labeled. No, I'm like, what the hell? Like, it's like, you just have to test and label at the end of it. So your company has to have standards, and this is where staff meetings come into it, where you can, I'm a massive staff meeting guy. Like, at the start of every Monday, you could be like, oh, hey, Joey, you're going here. So if you finish early, go across here. Hey, guys, we're focusing up on this week. Last week I had a phone call from a client asking about the data. I didn't know what it was. It wasn't labelled behind the plate. It wasn't labelled on any plan. It wasn't anything. Can we just start to label it? Sweet, cool, done. Now we're pushing forward from a level of excellence. But the danger is with most people, they don't slow down enough to run that. And I'm talking like a 10 or 15 minute staff meeting. They don't slow down to run the 5 or 10 minute staff meeting, right? Difference between good and excellent is 5 minutes. They don't slow down enough to do the easy thing easy, have those conversations, bring it up. A lot of times, if you don't bring those staff conversations up, you end up imploding or exploding. Imploding in terms of every time you get home to your partner, you're like, throwing darts at the dartboard or knives at the wall. And they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that again. And you're like, I know. And it's like, you just had to have that conversation with them. Hey, that's not okay. Like, that needs to change. And it's like, now we've had 17 hours of partner discussions by the fireplace over 7 red wines talking about how bad life is, when I just had to have a 5-minute conversation with a staff member about, hey, CC no bueno, not good enough. Like, we need to change, right? So it's like, so I think like the easiest thing to do is complain and bottle things up, and then you'll implode, or you'll explode, and the staff member will be like, oh, they brought back the 1.5 instead of the 2.5, and you're like, you just explode. And it's like you just have to call it out that's all you have to do. Just call it out as you see it. So it's like, I don't know what it is that you need to adopt, but the difference between good and excellent is 5 minutes. Don't be good, don't be great, be excellent. And what small task can you do a little bit better? Peace.